Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for February 22nd, 2024. Well, hey guys, I'm back. I apologize I missed yesterday. Just the pain of this first foot surgery kind of held me back, and it's pretty painful this morning as well, but we're going to get this done, at least muddle through. So thank you for bearing with me and for hanging out. I really do appreciate it. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, after the NVIDIA earnings, markets are just, uber bullish. They just can't seem to buy things fast enough. And Asian markets last night were up across the board, really moving to the upside, with the Nikkei surging over 800 points, up 2.19%, and Hong Kong surging higher, 239 points, up 1.45%. Shanghai following behind, up 1.27%. But everything, very excited, very bullish, and the Nikkei for the first time popped over 39,000 and surpasses an all-time high that was hit in 1989. Let's take a look at European markets. European markets are incredibly bullish this morning, surging to the upside with the DAX up 244 points, 1.43% this morning, and we're green across the board in Europe. Here in the United States, everything is surging. The NASDAQ is up huge, 375.75 points currently in the pre-market futures, up 2.14%. We have the S&P 500 also surging up 1.35%, and the Dow is up 160 points here in the pre-market. Let's take a look at what it's happening in oil. Oil this morning is pretty flat. We have oil right now, exactly, oil futures unchanged. Brent is up 3 cents, and natural gas is down 4 cents. And if we look at bonds here this morning, well, our bonds are also very, very happy here today, holding up pretty strongly. The 2-year bond is at 4.67%. The 10-year bond is at 4.30%, and the 30-year bond is at 4.46%. Doesn't seem to be affecting the market all. We're just high as a kite after the strong earnings from NVIDIA. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I feel a little bit disjointed here, and please keep in mind that I am on pain meds. So, well, if I say something stupid, you'll understand potentially why. And I do feel like I'm a little bit behind because I really haven't been able to keep up with the market here the last couple of days, so bear with me. Let's take a look at these index charts, and let's see if we can shake off a little bit of bias. Let's just try and see how we're going to approach the market for today. And if we take a look here at the diamonds still holding very, very strong in this choppy consolidation. Unfortunately, this consolidation between this high and this low is huge. We're talking about 400 points, about 500 points more in that shift back and forth in here. It's a very, very wild, choppy range. But you can see this morning, we're bouncing up here this morning with a lot of bullishness trying to push on through. So if those bulls can continue to find that inspiration today as we go through our data today, well, pushing through up here, blue sky highs above in the diamonds, if we can make that happen. And if the bears were to find some inspiration today, well, maybe pushing back down, we might test the top of that candle right there, and if that were to fail, then that possibility that we could start coming on down and testing these levels here in the chart. But right now, I truly think what we're going to see is we're going to see tech just continue to be bought up in a huge way. There's a big chase going on here in tech, and it does remind me an awful lot of 1999 in the market. So be really careful, and when we gap up big like this, you have to also be watching carefully for that possibility of a whipsaw. So just watch carefully in case this morning we cannot follow through, we bump up here, gap up in the morning, and then end up reversing. Not saying that's going to happen, just saying I would watch carefully for that possibility as we continue to just chase stocks higher. If we look at the SPY, also extremely bullish here this morning, breaking through this resistance that I had up here in the chart, and it looks like to me that we're going to continue to break on through here to the upside. Record highs at the open here today, looking like very possible here this morning as we pump on through here in the pre-markets, trying to push on higher. So watch that carefully here. Bulls are definitely in control here this morning. So blue sky above. That's all you can say about this as we race through to chase higher. Blue sky above here in the SPY. And no reason to believe, sky's the limit the way we're chasing stocks at the moment. Now, if the bears were to come up with any inspiration, or if we were to whipsaw, what I would look for is a little bit of price support right in there on that line if we were to pull back, maybe coming back into that area. And if we were to push on through there, maybe the top of this candle, to test that as some price support. Beyond that point, we're probably looking at maybe a level right in here to find some support, and you'd see that's going to be somewhere right along that trend here in the chart as well on the SPY. Now, if we take a look at QQQ after going down is just ripping higher. Yesterday, complete reversal to the upside. What the Fed has to say about rates, what the bonds have to say about rates, nobody seems to care anymore. It's just buy. So breaking that downtrend in here, pushing to the upside. As you can see, we could test this resistance here right at the open in the chart, and if the bulls can push on through there, and there's every reason to believe they could, breaking through this level up here, we start looking at a new high or a record high print, or a record high close if we can close above there. And then of course we would have to break through up into here to get a new record high or blue sky high in the chart. Now, if the bears were to find some inspiration here and we find some resistance in this chart right in this area, well, pushing back down maybe to fill this gap would be the first thing we'd want to be watching for, that possibility that that gap could be filled. After that, you notice we've got a pretty good level of price support in here in the chart just below the top of that candle. So pretty good level in there for us to potentially be watching if the bears were to come in. Falling below there could be really painful. If we were to reverse that hard, well, just be careful, because it would be a big point move potentially coming all the way back down into this area of the chart. But honestly, the way we're acting this morning, kind of don't see that happening unless something changes in a major way. If we take a look at our IWM not being able to enjoy the benefit of our tech giants here that are pushing us higher and higher and higher in these indexes, pulled back, found this trend here in the chart on IWM, and still looks bullish, holding in here, holding on to support levels, and there's every reason to believe that we could push back on up. So if the bulls keep pushing here today, let's look for a retest of this resistance area here in the chart. See if we can fill that gap where we gap down in IWM. And I'd watch that carefully. If we were to push right on through that area, well, then I'd be looking for a retest of resistance up here in that area of the chart in IWM. And unless we have some majorly bad data I would certainly see that as a possibility. If the bears were to find inspiration here today and push us back down, unable to fill this gap in here on that gap down, well, then I'd look for this area right here, a little bit of support right in there along that trend, those candles right in there, pushing that down. And if that breaks, I think we're maybe coming down into here. Beyond that, it gets a little bit painful maybe for the Russell, and we start to see a little bit of uncertainty show up here in the market. So watch that carefully if we were to break on down below that area. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX, while we are surging to the upside, our VIX has been moving to the upside, showing that little bit of uncertainty. But yesterday we pushed up and pulled back off of that almost 16 handles here in the VIX. You can see there's quite a level right through that area of the chart here in the VIX. So we'll want to keep watching that. The way we're surging this morning, my guess is fear will drop out of the market pretty hard and we will push down. But if that were not the case, if we were to see a little bit of fear come back in, that we're getting a little bit carried away, maybe a whipsaw in the market and pushing through this area up here, just kind of keep in mind we're holding a bit of an upside trend here in that chart. So watch that carefully. Fear can really come in quickly at times if something shifts. I'm not saying that's going to occur, but I'd be watching carefully. Now, if the bears were to come back here in the, or excuse me, if the bulls were to really come back in as they are this morning, pushing down, every reason to believe that we could push down in here, fill this gap here in the chart, and even push on down lower here. The way we're moving this morning, market would be looking like they have no fear at all, the way we are just pushing hard to the upside. Let's take a look at our T20s. Our T21-22 indicator, as you can see here in the chart, is pushed up nicely here off about the mid area yesterday. Found that price support in here pushing up, so about 50% of the stocks moving higher, about 50%. Not moving so much. Again, it's a select few stocks that are moving the market this dramatically, and it is going to be Nvidia today doing that. So watch this carefully. Every reason to believe, the way we're pushing this morning, that we could just push right on higher here, and I think there is that possibility that we could be right back up here in the bearish reversal zone once again here this morning with this big shove that we've got going on in the pre-market. Now, if the bears were to find inspiration, just kind of keeping in mind, we've got just a little bit more opportunity to the downside point-wise if those bears were to find inspiration, but it's not looking like that, at least first thing here this morning. And then if we take a look at our T2108, well, I better get that going there. T2108 did come back around yesterday. Kind of turn to the upside. You'll want to notice here that we've got resistance in this chart to be paying attention to right across this area as we push back up. Still haven't quite been able to hold on to that 50% area here in the chart, but I'm guessing we'll blow through that in the pre-market here this morning, pumping this to the upside. So watch that carefully. Remember, we still have this overall downtrend going on as well. Now, if the bears were to come in and find some inspiration, if we were to whipsaw, well, please keep in mind we've got some support right here in this area. It may not get too rough at all if they were to push back. If that were to break, coming down here would be a little bit rough, and that would be a nasty whipsaw on the day if that were to occur. Let's take a look at our T2107. Percentage of stocks above the 200-day, well, came in just with a little turn up in that surge right at the end of the day, pushing back up, but relatively flat overall. We're continuing to be stuck in this range here in T2107, pushing up here toward these upper areas, trying to hold. If the bears were to find inspiration, maybe a retest back down into here. So watch that carefully here today. Clearly, the bulls are in control in the pre-market here. We'll see if they maintain that, and there's every reason to believe that we could stretch this on higher. But you have to remember, it's such a few number of stocks that are really pushing to the upside that it is possible we can make new highs in the market, new record highs, and actually see the majority of stocks flat or even moving lower. So watch that carefully. And then our T20-101. T20-101 is perking up here to the upside yesterday, but not so much as to give us a huge warm and fuzzy. Notice we are seeing our breadth in the market remaining relatively weak. My guess is today we're going to see that spike, though, on this buy gap this morning, this big bullish push. But watch that carefully. And once again, if that were to whipsaw, it has been kind of interesting that we've been continuing to rally and rally and rally in this market and just really not seeing that much breadth here in the market coming in. That may soon change. It may change today. So watch carefully there. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, we've got a few things going on here that we'll want to be paying attention to. First off, we've got jobless claims coming in this morning. And you know, those have continued to be hot here for us, but doesn't seem to be a concern for the market at all as long as they can buy something that relates to AI. And they're looking at 216 here this morning for that expectation. So keep an eye on that. We'll want to watch that one close. We've got Chicago National Fed activity this morning. We've got a PMI composite flash here this morning. They're looking for that to come in at 50.1, getting us back above that key area of 50%. So watch that area here. Services, they're looking for 52, showing a little bit of growth there. And then existing home sales, they're looking for that to decline to 3.98%, which probably not a big surprise as we see those rates going higher. Then we've got Jefferson that will be speaking today. We're going to get a quarterly services survey. We've got a natural gas and a petroleum number here today that we'll want to be paying attention to. A few bond auctions, and then this afternoon, along with the Fed balance sheet heading into the evening, a 30-year bond auction in there as well. We've got a lot of Fed speak here this afternoon, this evening. So watch that carefully. Could affect tomorrow morning's open. Keeping in mind that tomorrow we have almost nothing in here. So my guess is if we can continue to hold on to this bearish bullishness, if we don't whipsaw here today, then we could continue and set new record highs going into the Friday close. Just a guess, but with not much else to go on in here, every reason to believe that is possible. Now, if we take a look at our our earnings calendar here today, I'm not going to be doing a blog because I'm running way behind today. I'm having to do things like crawl up and down stairs. I can't put any weight on my foot, so maneuvering has been a little bit of a challenge for me here, slowing me way down. But as you can see, this is a list of the notables for today. You can pause the video, take a screenshot of that if you would like to catch that full list of notables, because there will not be a blog today. So watch that carefully. But just a couple things to go over here this morning. We're going to hear from like LNG today. We're going to hear from Dominion here today. We've got Planet Fitness that will be in here. mRNA is going to be in here. NICE is going to be here. OLED will be reporting today. And last but not least, we've got ZipRecruiter in there on the day. So quite a few stocks to be paying attention to. Really nothing in the in the giant tech sector, except Intuit will be later on today. And of course, tech right now is that can do no wrong. So watch that carefully. let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, if you guys could do me this quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That'll help the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to do that. Thanks to everyone who supports the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at a few things out here. If we look at some of our pay systems, nice little resting pattern here, consolidating pattern in Visa. And I think there's every reason to believe, with the way we pushed up yesterday, that we could continue to push on through here to the upside. Although we're seeing credit card delinquencies growing rather rapidly, and those credit card debts are at all-time highs. Boy, just doesn't seem to be any stop here in the consumer spending way beyond means to just enjoy themselves. So watch that closely. I'm sorry. There we go. That's the daily chart. That's the one we want to be looking at. So watch that carefully for that possibility that may push on through to here to the upside, looking very good. If we take a look at MasterCard had a pretty big, ugly gap down here, but found that trend is starting to push right back up and maybe fill that gap. If we can push back above that resistance there and prove to hold it, then I think there's every reason to believe that could move on higher as well. So keep an eye on MasterCard. If we take a look at Block, SQ, it's been struggling in here in this long resistance in the chart and really range bound in this area. So it'll be interesting to watch here if we continue to see those others moving to the upside, then that possibility that this could find that support in here and stretch on through, but really has been struggling in here for quite a while. Now we have BKNG that will be reporting to, get the right symbol, BKNG, that will be reporting today. And this is a beautiful chart here, holding in a nice upside trend, nice little resting consolidation over the trend. Of course, the earnings are going to mess everything up here, probably provide us a great big gap in the chart, whether it be up or down, you just don't know. But watch that carefully in here. BKNG has been looking good, and with its report today, I think anything would be possible there. Let's take a look at a little bit of oil. ExxonMobil holding in here nicely in this resting consolidation in here, and notice that we just put in this higher low here yesterday in the chart. We crossed back up through that resistance, we held it as support, and then those buyers are stepping up in here trying to push that on through. If we continue to see some of these oil stocks coming up out of these bottoms, I would watch that carefully for a potential entry. And you may not have to go into one thing individually here. You can take a look at XLE, if you want to get a basket. Definitely showing that bullishness here, pushing through some resistance in the chart. I think any rest or pullback that comes back here toward that trend would be the next opportunity to enter into that chart. So watch carefully here in some of those oil sector stocks. Let's take a look at some of our big techs. If we look at AMD has really struggled in this range here. We popped through that resistance in the chart, proved that we couldn't hold it. We came down, we broke a support here in the chart, and now with the bullishness that we have and this morning based on NVIDIA, we're trying to gap this and push this back higher. But I would watch this carefully in here, that possibility that we could, I'm not saying we will, that we could hit some resistance here in the chart. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to start seeing some of these stocks coming back down. Now, right now, I wouldn't want to predict that, and I certainly wouldn't want to be short this unless I was using something in the way of a like a bear call credit spread or a back ratio spread or something like that to take advantage of that potential move, or even just a neutral move where it continues to go sideways. But watch that carefully. Now Apple has struggled here quite a bit, and you can see we're going to rally back likely here with that news from Nvidia. And I think any rally back into this downtrending resistance, come up into that resistance, I'd be watching for that next potential short and maybe that completion of that head and shoulders pattern that is formed here in Apple. Watch that carefully. If that were to fall, this could have a pretty substantial move to the downside. So watch that carefully, and you'll want to note that we're below our 50 days where we hit that failure, and now we have that possibility we could fail at the 200-day. And I gotta say, Google, although we bounced really hard here the last couple of days pushing back up, also gives me that little bit of concern here as we look across here and that downtrend in that chart and that possibility that we could find some resistance in here and push lower. Now remember, I'm not going to be the guy that tries to predict which way a stock's going to go. I'm going to wait and see if we get some failure coming in here before I would do that, because there's every reason to believe this could pop right on through, hold a higher low, and Google push on higher, because it seems like it is against the law to sell big tech nowadays. But trust me on this, one day they will sell, and when they sell, I'm afraid it's going to be really painful when it comes off in the market. So be kind of careful here overall. If we take a look at the banking sector, we take a look at XLF continues to be really, really strong despite the massive debts and the fact that we're seeing these bond yields go up. We're still pushing these banks higher and higher and higher. Let's watch that carefully here as well. Every reason to believe that could continue to push on up here in the charts. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks for putting up with me this morning as I try to get back into the groove and deal with my immobility here for a month, at least a month anyway, where I can't even put my foot on the floor. Makes it kind of hard to get around. But thank you so much for sticking with me here. I really appreciate it. And I want to wish you all the very, very best today. And I'll see you right back here bright and early Friday morning. Have a great day, everyone.